Dobre.
Who?
Hi,
Hi everyone.
we are Alex from Hecktic.
Yeah, we play in a little band called Hecktic.
We made it.
We made it, yeah.
We don't just play in it, we made it.
We're gonna talk to you about music, about life.
We're just gonna hang out basically because we don't hang out nearly as much as we would like to. And yeah, since we can't meet you now in the current circumstance, it's just an opportunity to, if you wanna hang out with us, here we are.
First time ever doing something like this. So it's probably gonna suck a lot.
No, it's just gonna be a bit cringy because we decided to do it in English for two reasons. First, our friends are gonna ridicule us quite a bit more. And second, we've also managed to make a few friends outside of Bulgaria and we would not like to alienate them. Today we're actually gonna talk a little bit about influences, like what made us, why we do what we do. We haven't talked about this to each other, actually, I don't think so, at least not extensively. So it's gonna be interesting to hear what made you do this, and I'll tell you a little bit about my favorite bands. So we've picked about 5 bands each, I think, that are the main reasons behind why we do what we do, and we're just gonna riff around a bit on this topic. So yeah, this is gonna be episode 1, the influences behind Hecktic.
Hopefully not the final episode.
Yeah.
See how this goes. Right.
So I'll
Let's do
start
it.
this off, I guess. The first one, actually, we found out that we have a few bands that we both picked. So the first one is probably the most important band for me, actually, even though we've strayed a bit outside of what they do. It's Machine Head, and more specifically, their later albums, Unto the Locust and The Blackening. Unto the Locust is my favorite.
Actually, I discovered this band through you when we met like 2012, 2013.
13, yeah.
I think this used to be your favorite band at some point.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I discovered them with, exactly with Locust, but my favorite has to be the next one, Bloodstone and Diamonds, I
Mhm.
think it's called. What I love about this band is, I'm gonna say intensity they bring to their music. Like, it's kind of far away from what I used to listen to at the time, especially the vocals. Of first time I heard someone being so
First time with nasty vocals, or
no, not
so
first time
expressive, maybe.
expressive. Yeah, that's the word. So there's this one song in Bloodstone and Diamond. Everyone hates this song. It's called Game Over. It's fucking cringe.
About the old bass player. I think.
It's about the ex-bass player who. It's a diss track, but the way Rob sings it, dude. I think whenever I put my headphones on and I listen to this song, every time the song ends, I feel like I have to take my headphones out and clean the spit from my ears.
Yeah, he just goes for it. It's not like these heavier bands where most of the vocals are heavy and there's a technique that's developed and the guy's just super clinical about it. Rob just yells.
Yeah,
That's it.
I feel like I'm in the same room. Like
Yeah.
he's 20 centimeters away from my ear and he's shouting into my head. That's what I really like. That's what really turned me on to this band. And also the other thing I found really cool about them is their production. It was really next level. I mean, I was into, I'm gonna say older vintage stuff, like old thrash metal at the time.
Mhm.
And when I heard Machine Head, they were one of the first bands that their production was so clear yet so nasty.
Yeah. And for me, it was the whole formula. I mean, everything, the way I think about music to this day, even though I went on to listen to different stuff, it's Machine Head. It's the formula that I was always striving for. It's like you start, at least I don't know how it is for you, but for guys that play guitar and want to write songs, it usually starts with Metallica, where
For sure.
it's the entry point, and then you have different aspects that you like. So someone likes, for example, the groovy bits, they go on to stuff like Pantera and Lamb of God. And the thing I wanted to find something where the aspects that I liked in Metallica were amplified and that they focused on them more. So the whole formula of Machine Head, like the band with 4 guys, where the two guitar players play solos and they're both really good. It's not like one of them can't play at all, so they call him the rhythm guitarist. They're both extremely good. Everyone sings. The songs are massive. Like they're these 10-minute long journeys, all kinds of songs, not like just long songs or just short songs. They have all kinds of stuff. Every song is a journey, and they have all of the dynamics, and it creates this space that is very homely for me. It's like, this is where I want to live, right? So this was the whole formula that to this day, this is how I think about music. This is what I refer back to. Even though I listen to nastier stuff, this is always, I'm actually finding myself trying to escape a bit from this, because it's, I don't know. The whole structure and everything, they have the clean parts, they have the duo, harmony solos, intertwining stuff. This was so important for me, all kinds of vocals. So I put this in the first place in the list because this is the way I view music. They made it, like on the albums Unto the Locust and The Blackening. I don't really like their older stuff or their newer things, but these albums, and of course Bloodstone and Diamonds doesn't stray too far, but this is it for me.
Bloodstone is like, to me, it's like a more refined Locust. I
Maybe,
feel like Locust has a few great songs, but Bloodstone is like 70% of it is really, really 10 out of 10. And I think what you touched on is their dynamic song structure. Like it's not like a straight line. You start with heavy stuff for 5 minutes, you end the song. It's like you have clean bits, you have screaming, you have melodic singing, harmonies,
clean guitars, crunchy guitars, everything.
The whole 9 yards. And that's actually something I really love about other bands, like Wolfheart do it a lot. And I find that even if you're the heaviest band alive, like if at some point the heaviness just disappears, if it's all heavy, it's the same level of aggression of dynamic, unless you have like places where the song breathes, so to say. It's the heaviness loses itself. Like many of the really aggressive stuff, like the deathcore bands, the gore grind bands, death metal bands, most of them,
where it's just a flat line of record.
With death metal, I have fun. Like for 3 minutes, it's cool.
And
but
time to go then.
Yeah, it's time to go. Next song.
It gets ear fatigue, it's harder to finish an album. Yesterday, I wanted to go over some of the stuff that I was gonna mention today, because even though they are the most important bands to me, I don't really listen to them that much anymore because they're installed, they're hardwired, So yesterday I listened to Unto the Locust again, and I just had incredible fun for an hour straight. Like not even a little bit of feeling like, oh, I would rather do something else now, or let's check Facebook or whatever. It's just the whole dynamic thing. And again, is the whole songwriting aspect. They have 10-minute long songs with 15 different sections, and even though they don't have like the nice chorus, the nice verse, then again the nice chorus, it all just flows so well.
And that's something that I feel like we've been trying to nail with our music as well. We have our 2-3 minute songs that are like aggression all the way through, but we try to incorporate more dynamic song structures, like stuff like Forever or Until, Damnatio Memoriae. Not gonna lie, my favorite 2 songs of the album. But yeah, I really love stuff like that.
Yeah, of course.
Right.
I remember that around the time we met is actually when I discovered them. And I had this moment of, this is gonna be incredibly cringe, but I don't care. I remember my 17th birthday. So I was at home. I had just discovered Unto the Locust like a few weeks ago. I had learned the song Locust, the title track, which is like super easy to play, yet it has all of these elements. It's obvious ideas that are, if I hear them now, it would be, oh, that's so obvious and basic. But you know what I mean, right? Yeah, but then I remember this very distinct moment where I was playing this in my room. My guitar wasn't even turned on. I was just listening on headphones and just playing alone. Terribly, of course. Yeah, just jamming. And I was like, wonder what I would want for my birthday if I could have anything. And it's like, this is it. I just want to play this song right now. I kid you not. It was just one of those moments where I have everything I want right now. I just want to play along to this song, right?
Oh, wow.
I just liked it so much. And yeah, this was like the whole idea. I wanted to have a band with this vision, you know, the 4 guys where everyone sings. You know, I also like guys that also sing and play guitar. So this is something I would, yeah, this is how it started. And we actually played on our first show ever, where we just had gotten together. None of us knew how to play at all. But we had just learned a couple of cover songs to get on stage, and we opened with I Am Hell.
Oh, yeah, it was fucking horrible.
It was amazing. Like, we couldn't do the gallops on the verse. We were just like, oh, here's the chord, you know, fill it with some kind of noise in between the next chord, you know, that's the verse, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, we managed to pull off at least the feeling, you know, there was 4 of us. We both were singing the different parts. He was singing the more dynamic parts. I was doing the nastier bits. The formula was there from day one, and that just, you know, we had the 2 guitar players. We were both extremely terrible. It doesn't matter. We both made noise where it was time to solo, and it just, you know, it worked. It's like, yeah, this is it. It's starting to happen slowly.
Good thing it was in that small cramped club where you couldn't hear anything.
Yeah.
That was a benefit, I'm gonna say, because if we had played like a real place where you can hear what's going on.
Well, we were kids, so
yeah, it probably wouldn't have gone through as well as it
I
did.
had been playing for about 2 years at that point, so what do you want? Like, I didn't know how to tune my guitar yet. What do you want? What do you expect? So yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was fun. I like it because we started getting in front of people as soon as possible. The bad thing is that everyone has cell phones, and there's videos of everything all over YouTube. If you type in Hecktic, you see all of the cringe is there, but I'm happy.
Don't give anyone ideas, please.
Yeah. I'm happy we started doing this because, yeah, it is better, at least in my opinion, right now, to just start failing, you know,
yeah,
right away.
Not gonna lie, it was tons of fun.
Yeah. It gave us the how do you call it? The bug bite or whatever, you know. It was like, yeah, let's go. This is it.
Right, moving on.
Moving on. That was one band for each of us, so this is why we spent so much time. And again, as I said, this was probably the most important of the entire list, you know. This is what made me want to do this, so it deserved the time we gave it.
Yeah, moving on. You got Sylosis. Talk to me.
Yeah, Sylosis. So the whole thing with this was not so much the music, paradoxically, and it was more of me discovering Josh Middleton's YouTube channel, which was right around that point where we had played 2 cover shows. The first one was, fuck yeah, let's go. Our classmates are here. We are still cute for doing this, you know. It doesn't matter if it's terrible. The second show was a few months later, which was embarrassing because then I wasn't at school anymore. And I wasn't cute anymore for doing this, and it was a total disaster. And we were like, fuck this, let's go home, write some songs, practice, and not come out until something starts resembling music, you know? But around that time is when I discovered Josh Middleton, and this was my formative period, you know? This is when I started the slow transition from making noise to something that resembles music with the guitar, and my whole approach to how to learn and play guitar. So it was not so much the music as Josh's personality and approach from his YouTube channel. I just watched this religiously, like his whole approach. He has a 20-minute long video of where the video is called How to Play Guitar as Cleanly as Possible, and he's really shy and trying to be careful and politically correct, and he's like slumped like this, and well guys, I'm not gonna tell you to not be proud or anything, but you fucking suck, and you shouldn't upload stuff to YouTube where it's terrible and whatever, you know? So it was a whole video where he doesn't play at all, he just explains the approach and everything. Then he has a few more videos where he goes over theory stuff and whatever, but yeah, his channel was like, I watched everything 70 times, learned everything, and I think this approach is what this started my obsession with. It's not even an obsession, it's something I'd consider essential if you want to play guitar with extreme stuff, or not even extreme, just any kinds of metal. You have to think like this, I think. There's no way around it. Like, you have to know how to record or just the basics, you know, what sounds good when you play. All of this I learned from him, and actually the interest for the music came after that. It was like, ooh, I wonder what music made by someone like this would sound like. So yeah, and the album that was the most important for me was Dormant Heart, which had this unique atmosphere, all kinds of... It was less dynamic than Machine Head, still had the same formula, but it was a bit more, you know, not as exciting, I would say, although it let me see different colors, you know. But yeah, it was what I took from Sylosis the most was just the Iron Man approach to just doing the work and how to play guitar, and yeah.
I got a funny story with Sylosis. Actually, I gotta say, I have a love-hate relationship with this band. We've talked about this a lot. Like every time you hit me up on Messenger, you're like, dude, this song Sylosis, fucking sick.
I feel like I haven't done that in like 5 years at least.
Yeah. The time that you were like discovering them and you were really hyped on them, and I'm like, okay, I gotta listen to these guys, see what they're about. And I listened to them, and what I talked about before, where the whole album is like one straight line, no dynamics. That's how they feel to me.
Of course.
Like
me too. Same.
Objectively, they have dynamic stuff. They have slow bits. They have clean stuff. There's some interesting stuff, but when I turn on their album,
it's just not in here, right?
Yeah. And I saw them live too, 2015.
With Lamb of God and...
Yeah, unforgettable show, by the way. I was in Birmingham, UK. I saw, what was it? Megadeth, Lamb of God, Sylosis, and Children of Bodom, which, like, all these bands... We're gonna talk about some of them later today. Not to spoil anything, but yeah, Sylosis were opening, and they're really fucking nailed it. They're a really terrific live band, and I was like, okay, what am I missing here?
Everything is correct, and yet,
yeah. What am I missing here? Like, these guys are fucking awesome live. They play their hearts out, and I go home, I turn on their album, and I'm like.
Yeah, it just didn't speak to you. That's fine. Yeah.
They felt like to me they were like a weaker, more simplistic version of Revocation, which they for sure both bands have a lot in common, but they're totally different in other.
Which is
areas,
weird because on every Sylosis YouTube video there's someone talking about Revocation,
and on every
Revocation video someone talks about Sylosis, and there's this comparison, but they don't really have that much in common, I think, at least in my opinion, you know, because Sylosis is the typical repertoire of old school thrash, you know. They add some stuff, of course, but like Revocation is a lot weirder, I think.
Especially their
quite a bit fucking faster. Like the fastest Sylosis stuff is around 200 BPM. Some stuff is a bit faster, but for Revocation that's like the slowest stuff. They have like Arbiters of the Apocalypse, 225. It's, I think, 150 triplets, so it's like 225. Let's fucking go. Like down picking.
Doesn't feel that fast, to be honest.
It is?
Wow.
Yeah.
Never knew it was that fast.
Yeah.
But
it's just the next level of technique that Sylosis doesn't really get into on a regular basis. They sure can pull it off, but yeah. Another thing with Sylosis, by the way, is the vocals. I absolutely love this guy. He has this... His harsh vocals are pitched all the time. He can't not have pitch in there. Just his particular technique lets a lot of pitch, you know, come through the distortion. And he also creates these melodic lines with almost all of his vocals, which is something that I've been working on for the last few years, you know, trying to add this type of, you know, like Gojira and Sylosis, these heavy vocals that still have retain the pitch in them.
Actually, the vocals of Sylosis are another part that I don't really like. They feel... this dude, like, to me sounds like he does one sound and that's it. I mean, you're right, he does pitch all his stuff, but I feel like
A bit more of a one-trick pony, yeah, but
yeah.
definitely hits the spot for me though.
Not to say that Dave from Revocation has too many sounds. By the
It's
way,
not about the quantity though, right? It's like, does it work? Do you like it or not? Like,
Yeah.
Of course, if it hits the spot, of course you don't listen to Sylosis every day, all day. You know, sometimes you're like, I need this right now, and he just captures some kind of sorrow or some kind of vibe that I'm like, I need this thing exactly. Even sorry to interrupt you, their latest album, Psycho of Suffering, I didn't really get that much into the songs. Like, I like it a lot, but it's not something that's my favorite album or anything. But the vocals are what makes this album for me. He's improved so much, and I just adore it, you know.
Yeah. You know what? Actually, a few years ago, when I heard Dormant Heart, I didn't like that album, as I said. And yet there was a period of like a month where I was blasting it every day. I don't know why. I have no idea. Like, I didn't like it, yet I was blasting it every day for no reason. I don't know. And it grew on me. There's a few songs there that I really love. Like Mercy is really cool.
Yeah.
The intro
Fucking
is
heavy.
really nice.
Amazing song, yeah.
Dormant Heart itself. And later in the album, there's one with clean vocals. I don't remember its name.
I don't remember the name either.
But I really loved that one.
But I know what you're talking about. I just don't remember the name.
Yeah. It was the one song that's really different, pops out instantly. And I think they really nailed it. It was like quiet, slow tempo.
Yeah. And even the songs you mentioned, like Mercy, it's just so simple and so powerful. And Leech, I love Leech. And Where the Wolves Come to Die, like this intro, I just can't handle it. When I hear that, I'm just sweating instantly. I can't sit in one place. So powerful. For me, it just hits a certain spot. The vocals and everything. And actually, they are the reason why we play in E standard tuning. I took it as a challenge because Josh had a period where he was like trying deliberately to do stuff differently than other bands. He was using these old school JCM 800 modded Marshalls. He was like, everyone is playing 5150s. Fuck that. I'm gonna play my grandpa's old Marshall, mod it to oblivion, you know, make it some kind of monster and play this. Everyone is playing guitars that are actually playable. I'm gonna play Gibsons. You know, everyone is down tuning. I'm not gonna down tune. I'm gonna, you know, play in E standard, and they do the typical where you do inverted power chords. So it's basically fourths. You play in fourths and the bass plays the root note, or it just barks so well, and it doesn't work. Later I tried our songs in D.
Yeah,
doesn't work. Just it has to be you can go maximum to E flat. I think it just doesn't work. Gojira does it all the time, but it just doesn't work when you want to do stuff that's this fast and you still want it to be punchy. E standard is the thing. That's why a lot of our songs are in A, because it makes sense, because the lowest open string is, you know, the fifth string, and it just makes sense for this. So yeah, this was a big reason why we play in E standard. He took it as a challenge, like, can you be heavy while playing this way? And it's a big part of our sound, I think, because it lends itself to a certain kind of riffs where just single note stuff doesn't really feel so satisfying. You know, you can't just sustain an open note like you can with a 7 string, and you have to cram a bit more stuff in there. This is probably a big reason why Nous has a few moments where it's just so intense, I think. But yeah, it's part of the tuning. You know, the tuning lends itself to certain type of reason. I really like that we did this because, yeah, happy with the outcome.
Do you feel like this constant down tuning will ever implode on itself? I mean, I feel like every year the new bands tune lower and lower, and I know everyone's been saying this, but I've been learning to mix music, and
for a few years now, like 2 or 3 maybe.
I'm gonna say a couple of years, like more seriously. I've been subscribed in this program called Nail the Mix. They give you the raw tracks of a band, like a real band, and you mix them. You submit to a contest where you can win some kind of awesome stuff. Actually, like
Did you submit
microphone.
something for the contest yet? Or
I've done it, yeah, a couple of times, but
did you get any feedback, or they just give feedback to the winners?
They since it's like hundreds of people
Yeah.
submitting, and they tell you if you've made top 20, and after that, top 20 is like a community vote, I think. But no, I haven't made top 20. But so, anyways, many of the bands, actually, I've discovered many bands through this program, but I feel like most of them like tuned to like sub A, like G, F sharp. I had a band that was like drop E. The fuck?
Why not? It's 8-string with the drop tuning. The 8-string standard tuning is F sharp, so if they drop the 8-string on an A-string standard tuning, it's E.
Yeah, but come to think of it, most of that music is like more lower tempo, chugging stuff. Like I don't think you can play all 16ths in like drop E and...
No, you can. It's not why it's made. But then again, to answer your question, I don't think it's gonna implode in itself, because every tuning... This is something that I've thought about quite a bit recently, actually, because we started incorporating 7-string to our music. You know, it gives you the ability to explore new territory. We're keeping, of course, the standard approach where, you know, you do the fast, intense stuff, but I also became a fan of stuff that requires slower tuning. So we got a 7-string in order to not lose the top end of the range. And it's drop A tuning. You know, it's just nature. Most of our songs, a lot of our songs are in A. So it just instantly makes sense. It's like I've been playing with the Phantom 7-string until now. And of course, B standard is also available if we want to do a few at the gate stuff.
I love B standard.
Yeah, so I just think now that I've experimented with a few different tunings, you know, you have one 7-string and that gives you the ability to try 3 different tunings. Like you can try the E standard, it's there. You can do B standard and you can do drop A easily. So what I found, at least now that I've written a couple of songs, is just the different tunings lend themselves to different kinds of playing. So whatever you want to do. If you want to play in G, I'm sure some stuff will sound amazing in G. Gorguts plays technical stuff in G. It's not 16ths. It's just you use it in the way that makes sense for the tuning, right? So I don't think that it's any kind of a problem, really. It's not like I don't see it as an arms race where the lowest guy wins, because the lowest tuned guys get an opportunity to do something that the others can't, but they lose the opportunity to do the things that the other guys that are tuned higher can, right? So it's just what kinds of bands do you like the sound of? Tune this way, start writing riffs with this tuning. The tuning will tell you what it wants to sound like by itself. It will tell you what kinds of riffs want to be played this way. I had my guitar was tuned to D for almost a year. I tried writing stuff. I have a vocabulary that works for E. I have a vocabulary that works for super low drop A on a 7-string. I haven't spent enough time exploring drop C or D standard. It's very weird. It just requires something that's in the middle of these two. Yeah, that's how I feel about it.
For me, as a bystander, because I don't write songs as of yet. As a bystander, as a listener, to me, it sometimes gets annoying. I mean, I listen to a song, and you said as a songwriter, sometimes the tuning speaks to you, it wants that song, or the song speaks to you, it wants that tuning. I feel like sometimes I listen to stuff and I ask myself, does it need to be that low? Would it sound worse if it's like a couple of tones higher? Does it need to be? Because when I go to shows and I see bands that drop tune a lot, I'm gonna be fucking honest, I can tell what's going on.
Yeah.
I can't hear a thing. All I hear is kick drums, some noise, and vocals probably, and that's it. But if the guy growls super low, vocals are kind of lost too.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons I don't like drop tunings a lot. But to each their own. I've tried escaping from that boomer mantra where you hate something new because it's not like the old. The Doom soundtrack opened me to that. Like
Yeah.
Mick Gordon uses something ridiculous, a 9-string guitar drop.
I don't know. Yeah,
to-
I think it's not too far away from a standard 8-string tuning. I'm not sure at all what he tunes to, but I don't think he recorded the whole thing with the 9-string.
No,
That's
no,
what I mean.
he
It
said
was just
that
in a couple of
the
places, maybe.
ninth string was too much. Yeah, most of it is like 8-string stuff.
Yeah, of
The
course.
ninth one is like in
And
two
like you
tracks,
see how he makes it work. Like he knew the tuning, he knew the sound he wanted to get, and the riffs the tuning lends itself to these kinds of riffs, right? So
He also tried to embrace the meme a bit because Doom is a
Ah.
ridiculous game.
yeah.
Like you go there and you slay demons like by the thousands. It's not anything serious. And he said in an interview that he felt like he could embrace the meme a bit, go
Mhm.
as low as possible, and make it work. Moving on, I'm gonna talk a bit about Megadeth. They're for sure one of the bands that formed me as a bass player a lot. My all-time favorite bass player has to be David Ellefson. The first
Didn't
time,
know that actually.
what?
I didn't know that actually.
Oh man, the first time I listened to them, first thing I heard was "Rust in Peace," which for me is the best thing that ever hit tape. Like fucking perfect, top to bottom. But before that, when the stuff that I was listening, like the bass felt like an afterthought. Like it was like the bottom end of the guitars, not much to write home about, and most of it felt like muddy stuff. You can't really tell what's going
The
on.
typical old school approach where you just let the shitty guitar player play bass.
Yeah, and I've heard some ISO tracks of like great albums, great bass players. I've heard stuff that Cliff Burton played on Master of Puppets. Dude was fucking amazing, shredded it, but the ISO tracks, I can't tell what's going on
Yeah.
in some places. Like, what is this tone? The distortion he was using, we gotta bear in mind that there wasn't much available at the time, as in gear, but some parts of some songs, what is he playing? Is that a G? An
It's
E?
like the bass is there to fill a certain spectrum, a certain part of the mix, right? But it's not there to be as clear as the guitars and make a statement by itself. Which is, we're gonna get crucified for this, because we're supposed to say Cliff Burton is the greatest guy ever. Whatever. Like,
For sure, he did a lot to
I'm
the
sure
scene.
he is. Yeah, but
He opened up metal bass players to actually shredding, doing stuff on the dusty end of the neck. But
which for bass players, that's most of the neck, supposedly. At least for bass players back in the day.
yeah, everything after 4th fret is like
At
no,
least
we
for
don't
bass players back in the day in metal. Of course, the shredders were already there, like Victor Wooten and real musicians.
Yeah, but
I'm gonna get killed for this.
as I was saying, Dave Ellefson was the first time I actually heard a virtuoso metal bass player. On Rust in Peace, you can hear it. It's an old record. It's like 31 years old as of this year. But you can hear every note of the bass so clearly. And it's not a part of the guitar sound. It's separate entity. Yeah. It and the drums move the song along, but like you feel like in the car, like the drums are the wheels and the bass is like the steering wheel. That's how it feels to me in this band, in this album. And the tone he had, something I hadn't heard at the time, really opened me up to how I wanted to sound. And I used to own his rig mostly, like except for his basses.
Hard key.
Yeah, the hard key.
Doesn't he use some kind of distortion though? Because the hard key, it was mostly a clean sound, I think.
It's basically an over-amplified DI sound, yeah. But that's
what he plays with, right? On the album.
Yeah, that's
no distortion or anything.
I don't think so. No, maybe a Sansamp to saturate stuff a bit.
Amplified DI, yeah.
Yeah, but most clean stuff. Like you see his EQ, mostly flat. Maybe he'll scoop out the mids a little bit. Give it a little bit top end, but yeah, that's it. Super simple guy, and he opened me up to this really clear sound, where like the bass doesn't live with the kick drum, it lives with the guitars. And he's playing, God, he's so tight. Before that, when you were talking to me about down picking and like palm muting, and I was like, yeah, that's some guitar player shit, I don't care about that. And then I hear Megadeth and like, fuck, now I gotta learn how to do this as well. He's so tight. He's one of the tightest players of the time. Like, now we have people that are fucking gods.
Now we have gear that makes the bass actually audible, so people have to learn how to play. So, yeah.
But the way he played and the things he played really opened me up to become what I've become, what I am now as a player. Like many of the parts I've written for the album or for other things we've done are like things that if he was in Hecktic, he'd probably do something similar.
Yeah. So you were thinking like, what would he do here? This kind of approach.
Unintentionally. But yeah, through the years I've started developing my own style as a player. But still, the basic is the way Dave Ellefson played in Megadeth.
So basically, he's your Josh Middleton.
Yeah,
somewhat
for
like
sure.
the beginning. Yeah.
Not like life advice, because he doesn't do that a lot.
Well, I don't think Josh did that much life advice either. He was quite shy about it. I think at least that's how it came off. But yeah.
Yeah.
This, by the way, I never got into Megadeth that much. I like a lot of their stuff. I know Rust in Peace is one of the most important albums, I think, but it was never my favorite or something that I listen to all the time. But this thing that you were talking about, I'm so happy that you have this approach, because I remember when we were mixing Nows and when we were writing it, I've always liked bands that the bass is like just as important as the guitars. That's how it should be, in my opinion. I don't like it when it's just the bottom end of the guitar, so it's just some obscure low rumble. I want it to be, riffs on top of the riffs and just as important as the guitars. It's like a string orchestra or something. Like, everything is heard, everything is there. So yeah, I'm really happy that you like this kind of approach too, because yeah.
Yeah, but it's actually kind of a slippery slope, because I've heard many bass players that kind of overdo it. It's like many people are either like super simple, you play with the kick, you do what the guitar does, and others like at the opposite side of the spectrum, where he's like shredding all over the place, missing the whole point. Thank you. Missing the whole point of what the bass is supposed to do, because basically the bass is supposed to bring low end mostly. But finding the balance between shredding it up and keeping it simple is the key to being a successful bass player. Like,
are you a successful bass player? To be able to say that, like, yeah, kids, I've made it. Here's the key to the Lamborghini.
Well, technically, there's always more to learn. There's always more to be desired. But I feel like writing-wise, I'm gonna say it, I love what I've done.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but what I meant was, it's not even about just the lines you write. What I meant was, it's even enough for me if it's just your sound and your approach and your playing. Even if you're playing the same riff as the guitars, which we often do as well, it's just the fact that the way it sits in the mix, the way it's played, that is like another guitar player. He's a bass player, but he's not the shitty guitar player who we just give him the power to do some low rumble to feel that part of the mix. Like, even if we're playing the same riff, I remember when we were mixing Nows, our mix engineer, he made the first mix and I was like, no, dude, bring it up more. Like, one of my favorite sounding albums is None by Meshuggah, their EP, and also Destroy, Raise, Improve. The bass is playing almost the same thing as the guitars most of the time. It's Meshuggah, right? It's 3 guitar players. everyone is playing the same riff, but it's just the way it sits in the mix. This is important to me. Even if it's just, as you said there, to bring in low end and stuff, it's a separate instrument that you clearly hear all the time. This is what I like.
And actually, I feel like many musicians, many bass players underestimate what you can do with the bass, like on a very simple level. Like even when the band's playing a chord and you decide to be a rebel and not play the root note, like you go up to a third or a fifth, sometimes this changes the feel of the song a lot. And I started doing this a lot since Nous, and I love doing it.
You know,
because you can really steer the song in a different direction where it needs to go. Like not all the time, because like everything, if you overdo it, it sounds like shit. But sometimes you can add another level of dynamics that doesn't need to be heard. It's felt.
yeah.
Sometimes, like you feel like the guitar is playing the same chord, but somehow it sounds different the second or third time around.
Yeah. And you know, one moment where you've done something like this, that's probably my favorite moment from Nous. It's not even you're playing the root note, but just the way you saw a section. It's the mid section of Transcendence, the bridge, where the way I envisioned the song, because when I write, I usually have, like, I show the guys the song when I have a structure, from start to finish, and then we work on drums together. We wrote this song, I had the guitars, we wrote the drum parts, we hadn't heard the bass parts yet. And this section, I always imagined it differently. Like, I imagined it like we were gonna go, all right, time to go, it has the snare beat, time to go. What he did with the bass is you just left the root note open, and it was like, instead of it being the part where we are all riffing, it was like the part where it's a build up. And I never saw it this way before. And but you heard it, you imagined this, you said like, this is how this should go, and it just transformed the song entirely. It's just a root note, but just the fact that you left it open, and it's like, oh wow, that's the build up. So the real bridge is supposed to be after these two repetitions. So yeah, I really like this kind of moments.
Yeah, I love doing it. Right, moving on, we got another overlapping band.
Which is very cool, because we got to play with them, which was probably the highlight of our fucking entire thing.
Yeah, and these are none other than the Swedish gods at the gates. At the fucking gates. I first heard them in 2015 when I saw them live at a festival in Romania. And oh god, that was such
the Book of Sand music video was filmed there, right?
Yeah,
right?
I always joke around that I'm in a music video of At the Gates, because
he's the 2 pixels on the.
Yeah, if you pause it like midway through,
you can see a blur somewhere, and here's the darkest part if you download it and improve the contrast.
Yeah, enhance. But yeah, it was a really fucking sick show. I went to that festival because Ensiferum were playing the night before, and was like, oh cool, At the Gates is playing. I've heard about this band. I think they're supposed to be a melodic death metal band. Sounds fucking cool. I love melodic death, but for some reason, sacrilege, I know, I hadn't listened to them.
Oh, they're just the little band that invented the whole fucking thing, yeah.
It invented like 2 or 3 genres, you know, like metalcore.
Unfortunately, they invented metalcore.
Yeah, like metalcore is basically At the Gates riffs and breakdowns.
And crying about breakups on top of it, yeah.
They were fucking awesome.
What's your favorite album? Which
I'm
of the 2?
I'm gonna be really trivial, and I'm gonna say Slaughter of the Soul. I really love their later stuff, like
At War with
yeah, it's fucking sick, and it's objectively probably better. But to me, Slaughter of the Soul has more meaning, and I couldn't say anything about this album that hasn't been said already. It's fucking cornerstone. It's a fucking monolith. Probably one of the most important albums in extreme music. But yeah.
But how was it important to you? We all know that it was important to
It showed me it was a gateway to death metal, because by that time the melodic death metal that I was listening to was mostly Finnish stuff, which come to think of it, doesn't
A
even
bit more light-hearted stuff.
doesn't even really count as death metal a lot. But to me, that was melodic death metal. Like Children of Bodom, all-time favorite band, by the way. And Sephirum, which are folk metal / melodic death metal. I don't fucking know. But At the Gates to me opened the floodgates to, no pun intended, to to the more pure side of death metal, like the grimy stuff, the nasty stuff.
Stuff that took me quite a bit of time to get into and to start to appreciate. I still don't, but yeah.
For sure. But I don't know. I love the riffs and I love the vocals because vocals. For every metal band, vocals are loved or hated. Some people love the guy from Dream Theater.
The guy from Dream Theater, the most annoying sound in the galaxy.
Yeah, I fucking hate that guy. But if I ask my brother about him, he's gonna be angry at me for the whole day. He won't
Fuck
speak
your
to
brother.
me. But
more on that on episode number 3.
But I love
we love his brother.
Yeah, but I love Thomas's vocals. He sings really high. He screams really high. Sometimes he sounds like a dying bear, but it's his style and it's different because I've kind of grown sick to the monotone mid scream or low scream, and he sounds different. And not many people that I know of sound the way he sounds, and I love it, and it suits the music really well because the riffs are like low and chuggy, but his singing is high.
Yeah,
it brings a contrast. He flows over the mix, and I love that. A little segue to, as we hinted at in the beginning of this segment, we actually played with them.
We actually played with
2018,
them.
which was a fucking dream come true. Tell me about how this thing came to be.
It
what
was
happened?
magic. It was magic. It was absolutely amazing, and I can't believe that we made this work. But it's the power of daring to ask, literally.
Oh yeah.
We had the Vakken metal battle thing a few months prior in the summer. We really made a lot of noise about this because we thought we had a shot at winning. Thankfully, we didn't. I would have hated to waste our opportunity back then because we could do so much better now. But anyway, we made quite a bit of noise with this. We started posting stuff on socials, and we started the Nouse hype started there, I think.
Yeah, that was the time
when we made lineup changes and started grinding hard and started actually these were our first okay shows, I think. Kind of. We started reaching mediocrity then, I think, which is very important. And so yeah, we had the Vakken battle. We didn't win, but 2 of the judges approached me after we played and told me it was between you and Euphobia.
Yeah.
This is literally what they said. We had a 30-minute long conversation and we chose Euphobia because of course they're gonna do better than you guys. They've played 800 shows and you were gonna shit yourselves here. So yeah, thankfully they didn't pick us. But anyway, we had some talks about some collaborations with them during the summer. There was a tour that was going to happen with some European thrash band starting with an R that I don't remember the name of. It was a 15-day tour that was gonna almost happen, and like a little before this, something went wrong and it didn't happen. One of the judges that was from the Bulgarian thing, he noticed, one of the German dudes, there was a thrash band that he was working with. He was organizing their tour, and he liked what we did, our style, because we were still more focused on the thrash side back then.
Yeah.
We hadn't moved so much into the death metal side.
We played only a couple of songs from Nous.
We played the thrashier stuff.
The thrashier stuff and songs from our EP, which is mostly thrash.
And when you have a 20-minute set, you just go and play all the fastest, heaviest stuff and you go. So
yeah, you hit like a truck and you leave.
We didn't. I think we had some of the more death metal things written back then, but we were not stupid enough to attempt to play this. Like we had a lot of work to do before we could play some of the harder songs.
We probably would have shit our pants.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh. Even if we played it well, we were going to.
No, we were scared of No Fun Intended, which is like the warm-up song. Here it's like we show up minus 30 degrees outside. Someone shoves a cable to you, like, go. This is the warm-up song right now. Back then it was called No Fun Intended as a joke because I thought that this is the hardest fucking thing ever. Before the concept for the lyrics even came. This was the working title. I thought we can't ever play it. This is why it was called No Fun Intended.
Oh wow, I didn't know that actually.
So anyway, this tour was going to happen. One of the German judges had a band that he was working with. He wanted to, he liked us, even though we didn't win. He was like, I can help you guys out. I want to bring you on this tour as an opening act. We were super hyped about it. This is nothing secret or anything. It just didn't happen because of logistics or whatever. 2 months prior to the tour, they just told us, yeah, it's not going to happen. The band decided not to do a tour or whatever. But we had something with the Bulgarian dude. He was working with the Germans. He was in on the whole thing. And he had something in the back of his mind like, oh, these dudes deserve some kind of a prize or something. So fast forward about 6 months, the At the Gates show gets announced. And I get the bright idea to just call him up one day and say, hey, if you don't have an opening band for the At the Gates show, of course we would be there for you to make you this, we would save your asses basically if you ask nicely enough. And he was like, you motherfucker, let me make a couple of calls. I stand on the phone waiting for him 20 minutes. He rings me back up and he's like, okay, just cancel all of your shows 1 month prior to this. And yeah, we played without the gates like this.
Just a little bit of housekeeping. The guy he's referring to, the promoter of the At the Gates show was also the promoter of the Vacuum Battle.
He was one of the judges. There was a couple of Germans and him, I think. I'm not sure how it works. I think he's one of the judges.
Yeah, I think he was one of the judges.
There's 3 or 4, maybe, I don't know, at least 3 judges.
3, I think.
And I think he's in on the whole thing. I think he
but
votes. Not sure.
He's the
promoter.
The promoter was they organized both the Vacuum Battle and the At the Gates show.
Yeah.
So that's where the connection is.
This is how it happened basically. So we had acquired this kind of social credit with these guys by showing our efforts and showing what we were about. And they were like, oh, you couldn't win, but we wanted to do this tour for you as a second place prize because you played nice or whatever. That fell through, and they were like, oh, we disappointed the guys. And then when I asked him, is there still room for an opening band? They were like, yeah, the band that won, Euphobia, was the other opening act, and it was just one opening act and At the Gates. So they were like, of course, yeah, go play. Yeah. So it was amazing. It was I love playing this club so much. It was our 3rd show on that big stage. There were 2 Vacuum battles before that, and then the At the Gates show, and it was so nice. Everything worked. We had a moment of our kick drum, double kick drum pedal broke in the middle of the harder song. We played Dissolution for the 2nd time there, and it broke in the middle of the song, and our drummer heroically pulled it off. So yeah, it was nice. We have some amazing videos from this show as well. So yeah, I'm just so happy this happened. I remember 6 years ago, 6 years before this, it was the day before my prom. I was watching Arch Enemy on the War Eternal tour in this same place where we opened for the Gates in Mixtape.
Sick show, by the way.
Sick show. Euphobia was opening for them too, 6 years earlier.
Oh yeah.
And here's what I thought. It's another of these cheesy moments I was telling you with the Locust song on my 17th birthday. So yeah, this is a few months after this occurrence, I was in the final year of high school, the day before my prom, and I was watching Euphobia set their gear up. Because they were gonna open for Arch Enemy, and I was like, this is everything. This is the pinnacle of achievement, playing a show like this, opening for one of your favorite bands. And I was like, if I could do this, dear universe, grant me this one wish. If I could do this in 20 years, I'd be happy. And then 6 years later, there we were, opening for a band that's like Arch Enemy, arguably even more important, or at least on the same level.
For us, it is more important.
Arch Enemy is bigger because they've been writing all this time. They didn't have the 20-year gap, Yeah. Anyway, same Swedish death metal band, and there we were, opening for them. So it's one of these moments where I'm like, thank you.
Yeah, I remember the feeling on that stage. It was at the same time so scary and yet so incredibly intense.
I
Like
didn't feel scared, to be honest. Did you feel scared at that point?
the first few minutes.
I just felt so comfortable at that point. It was, sorry to interrupt you, it was just when we were setting up the gear and we were walking with, with other by that point, to be honest, we had a few experiences. We had opened for a few important bands. Like we played a show with Warbringer, we played a show with Sinister, we played a show with Chronosphere, so it was not like we were starstruck that much. I remember that I just felt, not that I underestimated the occasion, but when we were just walking around setting up gear, there I am setting up my cables and Thomas is just walking past looking for his microphone or whatever, and it just felt like I'm playing with my neighbors, Even we were there at work, I didn't have the starstruck moment. And the other cool thing was like they did the sound check with the song At War with Reality. I just heard the samples playing and I had my guitar on me. I was warming up and I was like, oh no, I'm gonna play this with the guys. So I just stood in front of the stage and started playing along with them, even though I wasn't plugged in or anything. And yeah.
Right.
And this was, as you said, the Slaughter of the Soul was the album for you. For me, it was At War with Reality. The whole aesthetic of that thing is amazing for me. I love the vocals. I love everything. This is one of the reasons why I also like the band Live Ale from Bulgaria, because the vocals remind me so much of Thomas. Similar vibe. I got into Slaughter of the Soul a lot later, but At War with Reality it's a certain kind of sorrow that I just don't find in anything else.
By the way, mentioning Live Ale, I miss these guys. Live Ale, if you're watching, you need to do a reunion.
If you're watching, fuck you. Bring the whole thing back.
Yeah, make a new album. Make a reunion. We need this. You need this. Everyone fucking needs this. Right, so can you believe this? We've been going for almost an hour.
Fuck yeah, let's go.
Yeah, nice. Fuck. Moving on from At the Gates, we're moving into some different territory, into the cold lands of snow and sorrow. We're gonna talk about Wintersun, one of the most important bands for this guy right here.
Yeah.
So, what does Wintersun have to do with Nous?
Absolutely nothing. No. No. It has quite a bit to do with Nous. Again, it was like I have this obsession with people. When I find someone I resonate with, be it Josh Middleton or whatever, one day it was just time for me to obsess over Yari. And just, I want to learn everything about the person, like how he works, not personal stuff or whatever, just his approach and how he sees music. When I learn their stuff, when I listen to their stuff, it's like I'm always interested into the guy behind this whole thing. So yeah, with Yari, it was like the next step from Josh Middleton, where it's the same thing, amazing player, but just he constructs this amazing big creations. He's like the Tolkien of his thing. Like everyone does stuff like him. There, you have your Insomnium, Etherrealm, whatever, but there's one Wintersun. Like you have the Ensiferum that's like almost like this, but not quite, He's like the original.
Guess who used to be an Ensiferum?
Yeah. But yeah, for me, the whole influence with this was, again, that dynamic thing that's found in Machine Head. He just brought this to the next level for me, because he also had the mad orchestral stuff and all of the sections. And one of my favorite sections from Nous, the clean part in Forever or Until, the song was called Trashtersun. That was the working title, because it has the thrash riffs and it has the, quiet section. That's
the
like
Wintersun vibes.
Yeah.
So, Yari for me, Wintersun is I love him as well, but me and him, we love different things about this band.
Yeah.
Like he loves the long stuff, like
the
Time
cinematic
One,
stuff.
like the Time One, the Four Seasons, and I'm not that much into long songs. Like more than 10 minutes for me is a bit too much, but I really love their first album. It's especially the first couple of songs, like they feel like a hit and run. Beyond the Dark Sun, 2 minutes, no fat, nothing you don't need, they come, they slap you in the face, they go, and you're like, what the fuck?
It's a bit like Blinded by Fear by At the Gates, which
Exactly,
is basically
yeah.
the inspiration behind Transcendence. No, it was like, let's
True.
write a song that has 2 riffs, like Blinded by Fear, that's like shorter than 3 minutes. Let's go. So yeah, it's this type of song, like Where the Wolves Come to Die by Sylosis or
Beyond the Dark
Sun. Yeah.
But yeah, actually, through the years, I see Yari as kind of a different type of composer. I don't see him as a metal guy trying to do orchestral shit. I see him more as a film composer or a classical composer that happens to also play in a metal band.
A bit like Devin Townsend, which is one of his main influences, I think.
Yeah, but not as weird. But yeah, I feel like he just comes up with this whole operatic shit, whole orchestral thing, and he at some point he's like, oh yeah, I also play guitar, you know.
And I'm kind of amazing at it, and none of you can play my stuff.
Yeah, and
but it's in the background, so
he's an amazing guitarist and amazing musician as a whole, and I really love his vocals. We were having this conversation with my girlfriend a couple of days ago.
Which
about
one? It is her.
The one sitting behind the
one
camera.
who makes us look pretty and make sure we're in the frame.
Yeah. So she kind of recently discovered Wintersun. We were talking about Yari's vocals because previously she was more into like hardcore, metalcore type of stuff, and deathcore, yeah, all that. Punk,
not a woman of culture.
But yeah.
Later.
Wintersun, and we were talking about Yari's screams and growls. To her they sound a bit thin, you know. Yeah, like he's choking or something, which I could sort of agree, but I like that sound. But his clean singing, oh
amazing.
Man, fucking amazing. Here's a virtual also. Every time I hear some of his slow songs, like I get goosebumps.
His screaming reminds me a bit of Ishan or whatever you say, the guy from Emperor, and how do you say that? Ishan? Whatever.
Isan?
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of that black metal thing. You know, his scream is very high and screechy, but it's like a sustainable thing that just works, and Yari kind of reminds me of that vibe. This is why I think it fit the song Eternal Darkness so well.
Yeah, and for me, even though he's not the best sounding screamer for me, he's really distinctive. When I hear his voice, this is Yari, which maybe even has more value in the long term than sounding quote-unquote good, because sounding distinctive can net you more points sometimes.
Of course, and on the topic of vocals, what's important for me, at least as a listener, is, as we call it, вкарвалите филма, брат. So it's not about, this guy has the deepest or the most pristine technique or whatever. It's like, is this a good storyteller? I look at it as if it was an audiobook and someone is reading the story to me. I want the guy reading the story to me to be interesting, to make me feel like the story is told in a cool way. So I don't need the deepest screams or whatever, or the most varied or whatever. This is why Josh Middleton and the guy and then Thomas from At the Gates work so well. It's like, I like this storyteller's voice. Is it the most amazing technique? I don't care. It fucking works. They can do it. Sounds good to me. So
it fits the picture.
It fits the picture. Same with Yari. Yeah.
Right.
And just a little side note, one of my favorite things about Wintersun actually is the experience of being a fan of Wintersun.
Wow.
Here's what I mean by this. Their whole crowdfunding campaign and guitar audition and everything, it was just so entertaining to watch, because I remember it was like me and 5 other guys. It was like we were watching Game of Thrones, and it's like, when is the next episode gonna drop? Oh, we saw that story of... This is why I created an Instagram account, to watch their stuff. I didn't have an Instagram
really?
before. Yeah, in 2017, when the whole...
It was 2016, I think, because 17 the album dropped.
No, whatever. Around 2017, when they were auditioning for the new guy. So, it was, I remember that I made an Instagram account to be able to follow the guys from Wintersun and watch the behind-the-scenes stuff, which... I've never done that with a band. I've never been that into, the whole fan experience, like trying to scramble little details to, oh, I wonder what they're doing. What's the new album gonna be like? This whole mystique, and you couldn't get enough of them. So it was like me and a few other guys, we were just every morning, oh dude, in Teemu's story in the background you can almost see that the guy has curly hair or whatever, they were so special in some way. I can't even put my finger on why exactly they were special. It's just the whole experience. And the whole crowdfunding campaign, some people got mad. I don't agree with them one bit. Anyway, I'm not gonna get into this, but what I liked about it though, the most is that while they were doing this, they were so entertaining. They had all these videos, behind the scenes stuff, which you usually just get a notification, the album is out on Spotify. That's it. No story behind it, no anything. We were pestered with stories and materials for 6 months before this dropped. So we were already into it by then. You know what I mean? So the whole experience, what it felt like to be a fan of Wintersun, is what I like the most about them.
Wow. For me, I had that experience way earlier with Slipknot when I was a teen. They were like probably the first heavy band that I was into. And yeah, I totally get that. I was totally into that. Like, you see some grainy pictures from a show, and what is that, like Joey Jordison's right foot in the picture? And you zoom in, you look for all these useless details. It was fun. But yeah, about the crowdfunding, I remember that, and I actually used to disagree with you. We had a lot of arguments about this, and I still disagree with you. But that's we have agreed.
I think you can agree with me, at least for the fan experience.
Oh yeah,
even though you didn't get that much into them, I think you can agree with me that just watching all of that stuff was very entertaining.
Cannot argue that they completed, they reached their target. They did what they were out to do with this crowdfunding. I just don't agree with the method a lot, but
doesn't matter.
That's my opinion.
Yeah, and the whole thing that they have this world, it's not just the music on Spotify and then the dudes. It's like it has a certain mythos, a certain, when you arrive there, you're greeted with the music, of course, but then it's reading up about the people, the whole situation, what's up, there's a certain experience, a certain fan experience when you get into their stuff, which I haven't really experienced with any other band. With other bands, it's like, yeah, I know their stuff's on Spotify and that's it. And you open up their Instagrams and buy my merch, here's a photo from a show, buy my merch, here's my Spotify link, buy my merch, buy my CD, that's it.
Yeah, actually that could be an indicator when you've started liking a band. If you start caring about the person behind the music, like, and I don't mean what's his name, where is he from, but when you start to poke into his mind, I guess that's the moment you really like that band. Like, why did he write it?
Yeah.
How did he get to this? Okay, so
your next one is...
my next one is, I was late to the show with Periphery.
It's fine,
I remember when they came to the scene, like 2008, 2009. That's when I heard them. There was this YouTube channel, Guitar World, Guitar Central. They were doing gear reviews, like before the Ola Englunds, before the Fluffs, and they had a segment where some famous musician will come onto the show, show you a couple of riffs, and fuck off. Yeah. So they had Mishu Mansoor from Periphery. He was showing, I think, Icarus Lives, and it was the first time I was exposed to this kind of proggy, later to be called genty music. By that time, I was mostly into old shit, like the Metallicas, the Megadeths, all that. The more vintage sounding things. And by that time, Periphery was the new modern, I guess. And I really hated that. I used to hate that song, their album. I was like, if this is where guitar music's going, I don't want to be part of it. And...
Okay, boomer.
Yeah, literally. I was, come to think of it, I was such a fucking boomer. Of course, irony is Irony, and like 8 years later, I'm in love with this band. I discovered their song Marigold, which is to this day probably my favorite song of all time. Irony, I know I used to hate the band, now I love them, but their sound and the things that they do were really influential on my later developments as a player. Like I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but Nolly is a fucking god. I love the way I just love to listen to him talk for about like random shit. He talks about coffee and I'm like, yeah, tell me more about this fucking coffee. And I love the way he sounds. I love the way he plays. Fuck, I even own his gear.
Yeah.
I've been trying to sound like him for the last few years.
What did bass players even play before Nolly made gear that actually makes bass work?
I know, right? I don't know.
Like before Darkglass, the world before Darkglass.
Yeah, it was Sans Amps. Everyone played the Sans Amps, and they still do. But yeah, the way Nolly does stuff, I'm such a fangirl over Nolly. I love the way he does stuff, and now I love the way the band does stuff that like how we spoke earlier about Machine Head,
the dynamic stuff.
The dynamic stuff, like you can pop a Periphery album, especially their Select Difficulty and last one, what was
Juggernaut, the black one.
Yeah,
with Garden in the Bones and every.
Periphery 4.
Yeah.
Especially in Periphery 4, like you listen to the first song, it's a fucking 15-minute song about conspiracy theories and some guy high on mushrooms or something. And like a couple of songs later, it's a pop song with like drum machines and synths and almost no guitars, and you don't know what's around the corner. Yeah, you mentioned Juggernaut. That was my first foray into concept albums, where for those of you who don't know, Juggernaut is a 2-part album by Periphery. I think 2014 it came out. It's one continuous story in about 20-25 songs, and it's meant to be listened in one go. Like all the songs flow into each other.
It's not for pussies.
Not for pussies, no. And it blew my mind at the time. Every aspect of it, the vocals, the riffs, the production, perfect for me. And that was the time that I discovered them. Was the time that I started liking them was the time when we were writing Nous. And I don't know if anything if you can hear any Periphery in my playing.
I don't listen to Periphery that much to know. I wouldn't know it if I saw it. So.
But deep down in my mind, I feel like they were an important contribution in my playing style in Nous.
We have another band that overlaps. We came here with 5 bands each that kind of made us, and we had 3 overlapping bands.
Yeah.
And the last one is arguably one of the most important in terms of aesthetics. And this is the band with the most swag on earth. It's Behemoth.
Fucking Behemoth. Yeah.
I've only listened to 2 albums, and I love most of them. But what they do doesn't feel like anything else. It's this black and death metal that is just the apex genre, whatever. Like the Satanist and I Loved You at Your Darkest. First off, it starts out with these oil paintings for the album covers. When you've got your Megadeth Dystopia, which is this CGI cheap looking thing, and the other cartoony stuff, and then you have the artworks for the Satanist, and it's just pure class from the get-go. And yeah, it just the whole atmosphere is so dark and majestic. My favorite song is probably Oh Father, Oh Satan, Oh Son. It's one of my all-time favorite songs. I'm melting every time I hear this. The whole thing for me sounds, when I listen to the Satanist, my visual association is like I'm walking through Rome as it's burning and I can feel the heat and the little embers flying around. the ashen stuff. So
I remember once you showed me a painting of Rome burning or something.
yeah,
and
no, this is what it sounds like to me.
yeah,
Right?
and you were like, that's how the Satanist sounds to me. Behemoth I've listened to, I'm gonna say the better part, the better half of their discography. Like I've listened to some old stuff, the new stuff, and what I've noticed is that their old stuff are really raw.
The older stuff when they were a black metal meme, or their older stuff that's actually listenable?
Demigod.
Yeah.
And
So the
and
listenable
some
parts.
and some older stuff. I don't know every album by Behemoth. I'm gonna be honest. Crucify me if you will, but
They don't know every album by themselves. So
probably yeah. But yeah, I feel like through the years they started becoming cleaner and cleaner and cleaner sounding. With the album before Satanist, what was it, Evangelion?
Mhm.
It's the pinnacle of clean production. Like everything quantized on the grid, super clean, edited, drum samples, drum triggers everywhere, super tight and a little bit bland in my eyes as a production. And then there's a few years of a break between Evangelion and the Satanist.
When Nergal did a little thing called beating cancer.
Yeah. And then they flip a total 180 with their production. The Satanist, to me, very, very raw, reminiscent of their older stuff as in production. Song structures a little bit laid back, like not as many blast beats, fast stuff, like a more open, majestic, bigger production, like "Oh Father, Oh Satan, Oh Son," like you mentioned. Fucking epic song, a big inspiration of one of our songs. Actually,
The end of them, not you? Or
yeah,
with the spoken, the epic, the world is melting and the spoken word over it. Yeah. You can't really top that though, can you? It's like a spell to end the world or something. It feels like, I don't know.
Yeah, and with I Loved You at Your Darkest, they expanded on that even more. Like instead of like pointy metal guitars, they used like Les Pauls. I feel like Nergal wanted to make
a rock and roll album.
Yeah, a black and roll album if you want.
One of my favorite things about them actually is this whole storytellers aspect I was telling you about with At the Gates and Yari, because Nergal once said on the Satanist, I think, you know, before that he was going for, you know, reaching the deepest scream and whatever, you know, trying to make it sound as big as possible, worrying about does it sound correctly, you know. And with the Satanists, at least that's how it sounds to me, is just capturing the lightning in the bottle, capturing the emotion. And this is something I tried to do with Nous, not so successfully, because we compressed the shit out of everything anyway. But yeah, I really love this. It's a storyteller's aspect. There's all sorts of noises, there's suffering, there's hate, and you know, you get the emotions.
Kind of that Rob Flint thing I spoke about earlier.
But just a lot more violent and dramatic and
and blasphemous. I had the opportunity to see them live a couple of years ago. The violence, the intensity, the story they tell you, the atmosphere they bring, fucking I don't have any words. And something that has inspired me from their scene production is, you know how I think on Oh Father, Oh Satan, Oh Son, they bring masks on stage for the last part. And actually on that tour, Nergal had like different hats and headdresses for every song. Like for Bart Sabeo, he has like a Pope-like big tall hat.
Like in the music videos.
Yeah, exactly. It's probably the same one. It
costs a ton. So
for some other song, he had some like African tribal headdress.
The chicken legs around his neck for the Satanist.
Chicken legs around his neck. And for the end of Oh Father, Oh Satan, Oh Son, the spoken word stuff, they put on horned masks They stand still like fucking statues.
In front of the cymbals.
In
on
front
the
of the
side.
cymbals, and then they just jam the breakdown, or I don't know how it's called, but the slow part. That
Yeah.
dun, 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 dun,
Yeah,
dun.
Yeah.
And fireworks are going everywhere, smoke, and it's like you feel like at the gates of hell.
Yeah.
It was fucking awesome. And since then, I've been thinking if we can someday we can do something
Of course, yeah.
like this.
This
on
is
stage.
the same influence that they've had on me, actually. Yeah, the
Yeah.
whole movie aspect of it, the whole dramatic thing. They have the stage stuff, which, we've done very little in that regard, but we have these big ass banners that really don't cost that much, and I don't know why everyone doesn't have these. When you're playing in a small club and there's 3 bands before you and 2 bands after you, everyone just gets on, plays their stuff, and that's it. And we
Yeah.
come on, we bring these giant things, instant atmosphere.
Yeah,
At
and
least a bit.
Yeah. Oh, you're at the Hecktic show now.
Yeah. It's like, there it is. 2 logos on the side, 1 big logo for the backdrop. It's something, it's a start.
Yeah, it's a start.
But I would like us to have different banners for the different albums. So when it's time to play the new album, we have these ones. Then when it's time to revisit Nows for a few songs, we just spend exactly 27 seconds bringing them down and pulling the other ones up. It's so easy. I don't know why people aren't doing it all the time. Takes literally 20 seconds while samples are playing or while the other guy's tuning his guitar. You just walk up, the new one, instant atmosphere.
Yeah, that's true. So, what are we doing in the future? Like, that was what made us. What's making you right now? What are you into? What bands do you listen to? What noises do you like?
Noises, yeah. Right now, noises is the correct word, probably. So after a big period of, sticking to the Bible, the Holy Scripture, that is the bands we discussed right now,
Yeah.
which 3 of them overlapped, 3 for each. So that's all well and good, but I also like the edgy stuff. So I was like, where's the next step up from this? We've heard all of the machine head riffs. We know how guitar sounds when you're just doing triplets and 16 notes and down picks up to 200 BPM. What's next? And this is when I started discovering stuff that's actually heavy, where the problem with this is that things like Machine Head, although it's amazing, sounds so obvious and basic in a way. And I don't even mean this in a bad way. It's not a critique or something. It's just that I started looking for things that I haven't heard before, things that are outside of this vocabulary, things that are new noises new sounds that the guitar can make, new ways to approach heavy music, really. So this is when I started discovering bands that are actually extreme, and probably one of my favorites is Decapitation, which have their roots in grindcore, which is something that's forbidden, and I don't want to go there ever. But their later albums, the last 2 albums, The Anthropocene and Extinction is one of my favorite albums ever. I just adore this. Like, the stuff he does, the stuff the guitar player does, I don't understand one bit of it. Like, I don't know how he plays this. I really don't know. It's not a matter of it's too fast or anything. It's not that it's outside of my reach in terms of ability. It's just I don't know how these sounds are made. You know what I mean?
It's like to me it's like you've recorded a normal song and like sped it up to like 200%. And nothing is audible.
Yeah, you just see this faster. I know you've told me this before. You just see this faster and like grimy and punky and stuff. But their later albums, to me at least, they're not dirty at all. It's like really tight playing. I don't see it as their older stuff where it's grindcore and like benighted and whatever. You know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
The nasty stuff where you don't know what's going on. Here the playing is nice. Everything is really clean, really tidy, which is something I really appreciate for extreme music, because there's so much going on. You have to know like if you put an HM2 on something like Cattle Decapitation, it will destroy the whole thing. It's intense enough already. When it's that intense, you need it as tidy as possible to be able to tell what's going on. And the whole aesthetic of this. So the most distinctive element here, I think, is this is the overall theme for the bands I am gonna go over really quickly now. They abandon the whole idea of being human. It's not about I'm a human, I'm expressing human emotions, I'm Rob Flynn, I'm talking about relatable stuff.
Yeah.
It's the themes are not relatable. They're not human anymore. They're like an alien species or something that doesn't think like a human, which is really cool to me, you know, because at a certain point, you know, you've read all of the most famous books in the culture. You've read your Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, whatever. You know what I mean? In terms of fantasy books. And this is the H.P. Lovecraft of, you know, it's alien. It's not human. It's something different. It has this cosmic horror vibe to me because it's the unknown. You know, he's not a human anymore. My approach to vocals when I started was, I'm not gonna do the whole, you know, thing where the words are distorted. It's like I wanted the words to be as clear as possible while still doing whatever you want to do, but it's like I wanted to catch the vibe of this is how I talk. It's just that my voice sounds like a dragon or whatever, you know, distorted. But here it's not a human, it's a goblin, you know? It's an orc or some kind of a monster. This is the first situation where I encountered something like this one, and I was like, yeah, because I really didn't like when I heard this stuff before in deathcore bands, when it's like, okay, it's not getting any lower. You're just not saying the words. It's not lower if you do it this way. You can say the words. This is as low as your voice is going to go, right? So you're just making it worse, and it's not getting any scarier or whatever you're trying to do.
You're just impersonating a kitchen sink.
You're just... I don't like it one bit, you know? This guy does it in a way that just speaks to me. It's like you've taken Gollum from the Lord of the Rings, and he's this otherworldly creature that is not human, has its own morals and, you know, worldview, and you've given it a band, and you're like, all right, create stuff. And the whole way that the vocals are arranged, you know, it's like even you told me before that the only distinct thing you see there is the goblin vocals. To me, it's not just the goblin vocals, it's the whole way he approaches heavy vocals. Because if you got your At the Gates or Behemoth, where it's just, okay, I'm the storyteller, I'm gonna tell you the story. You know, that's what Thomas does, this is what Nergal does. They don't worry about the technique or whatever. This guy is painting three-dimensional pictures to me. There's all sorts of layers and combinations of different stuff, and panning and automation and different presets with the effects for every sound. And just, if I listen to this album, I'm just overwhelmed by how cool it is and how much attention was put to every little detail. If, for example, the song The Prophets of Loss, I don't know if you've listened to this album enough to know this. It's the second song from the Anthropocene extinction. There's this single word that he says during a riff is starting. There's no drums, just guitar or whatever. It's a build-up. It lasts like 2 or 3 seconds. It's just, he makes this black metal scream that's broken and different, and they put a black metal type of sound for this scream, you know, for the effects and the production, and that's found on those 2 seconds. It's not on the entire album. You can't hear this anywhere else. It's just those, you know, this kind of attention to details where he's painting a picture. This is something that just was so interesting to me. And this whole band was just the next level of heavy. It's like, it's not just the vocals. It's not human in any way. You know, you're At the Gates, you're Machine Head. I listen to this as a guitar player. This is what I learned from all of these riffs. I hear it, I can instantly play it. Like, it may be, if it's a riff that's a bit harder, maybe it's stuff that I can do but a bit faster or anything. This is just an entirely new world of alien stuff, and this opened the floodgates to me for other bands like that are doing the extreme type of stuff, like Vitriol, for example.
Yeah, Vitriol.
Yeah, I like that metal before that was like nice and tidy, like Gojira, or stuff that you can understand, that's still in the human realm. It's just these bands like Vitriol. This is the next level. There's just nothing held back. It's just fucking evil, and it's done in a tasteful manner despite the whole apocalyptic thing that's going on, the whole chaos. And then, so these were the bands that got me into the stuff that's next level angry, you know, because you have your breakdown from Locust. That's the first riff you write when you're 16, but just Machine Head did it and put it in a song, and you learn from this. And if we write a riff like this now, if I show you a riff like this that I've written, you'd be like, is this a warm-up? This is just so basic and obvious. You wouldn't let me put this in a song if I brought it to you, right? Yeah. So these bands are the next level of intensity that I discovered. And then along with them is like when you get to the next level of intensity, okay, but how do you actually do this when you have the basic repertoire of harmony and rhythm that you've learned from your At the Gates and Sylosis. Well, you find bands that are doing weird shit with harmony too. So here comes Gorguts and Ulcerate. These are two bands for me that are just so different, and this is the future of this genre for me, at least. This is the direction where I'd like to see it go. I remember it was just explained by Luke LeMay from Gorguts in a very simple way. Gorguts started out as a death tribute band, so to say. They wanted to be death. The first albums they have two albums that are just covers of death, basically, like
Wow.
obscure. If you listen to them, you'd think this is death. The vocals are inspired by Czech. Everything, the songwriting, the types of riff, everything is death. And then a few albums later, they purposely, deliberately said to themselves, all right, let's leave this behind because it's already been said.
Mm-hmm.
Let's find our own vocabulary.
Yeah.
And this is when they made the album Obscura, which sounds like a catastrophe the first time you listen to it. I'm gonna admit it took me a few months to actually get into it. But then it's been one of my favorite things ever since, because I've been looking since we made Nous. You know,
Mhm.
for the past 2 years, I didn't write almost anything in the first year since we released Nous.
Yeah,
Because all of the ideas that I had were like, okay, Nous 2. It was when I hear something that I write, it's like, yeah, I still agree with this, and it was the point in making the same thing twice. So I went on this quest to find the next. What's the next direction? What haven't I heard before? What's interesting to me? Because this is my approach to writing. You know, I jam around with ideas, and the way I decide to use an idea for a song is like, is this interesting to me in some way? And I just all of the ideas were like the type of sound we had in Nous. So the first riffs that I started keeping were sort of inspired by these bands. Nowhere near as weird, of course, but like
we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah, of course. But like this opened the floodgates for me when I discovered these bands like Keto, Vitriol, Ulcerate, Gorguts, and I got the 7-string guitar. This is when stuff started happening, and I have ideas for almost every song for the next one. They aren't done, of course, but I have the root for almost each song right now, because it's like brand new. It's like you're seeing brand new colors that you didn't know existed before. This is what these bands did for me.
For me, that was actually what Gorguts did. I've listened to their, what was it, Colored Sands? Yeah, that one. And when you showed me Gorguts, I was kind of bored with heavy music. I was like, I feel like I've heard everything.
Same.
I feel like everything sounds the same. And you tell me about this band Gorguts, and I'm like, fine, I'll give it a listen, I guess. And I jammed their album. I think I was working out when I first listened to it.
Doesn't work really, does it? For working out?
No,
It's not
it
a-
does.
it
But
does?
it did. But I was like, I was expecting some, vanilla death metal, like you're aborted, your cattle decapitation. You're like, for me, that's like what death metal sounds like.
Mhm.
So that's what I mean by vanilla. But I was expecting that. It was okay, just another death metal band, I guess. But they were such a huge fucking refreshment. Like, they were the first band for years now that made new sounds to me. Like
Right?
I was like, oh, you can do this with a guitar? You can do this in a death metal band? Oh, wow, that's fucking cool. You know, in Colored Sands, there's like a 5-minute orchestral piece. For
the battle of something.
I don't remember
Yeah.
what it's called because...
It's not 5
this-
minutes. I think it's a bit short. In the middle of the album, right?
Yeah,
That
it's
one,
like
yeah.
a few minutes where you don't expect in a death metal band, in a death metal album, like midway through it, to just hear violins playing. Like, what the
And
fuck
it makes total. And by
It
the way,
makes
if you
total-
listen to Obscura, the album Obscura,
Uh-huh,
there's a song where they actually have a cello, I think,
uh-huh.
in the fucking song on top of the riffs, and it's nasty. It's kind of a
Wow.
bit distorted, and it's scratching, and it makes absolutely perfect sense.
I
I
need
think
to listen
I
to
don't know. I'm not sure. I haven't delved deep into this band's mythos. Maybe
Mhm.
even Luke Lemay played it himself, or it was a friend of him because he studied some stringed instrument for a few years in the conservatory before he moved on to study composing instead.
Mhm.
But yeah, this was just, as you said, this was the next level of me. And what stuck with me the most is exactly this. Him saying, first of all, why do I call this band what we are doing death metal? Because this is the genre where everything is allowed. He has one interview where he said, they asked him, why death metal? He's like, any sort of idea could be welcome if it's placed in the arrangement with taste.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that it doesn't have a strict set of rules like a vocabulary, for example, like thrash metal. If you want to play old school thrash metal, you have to, Havoc is doing this wonderfully, but it's like, it's a certain set of rules. And their newest album, you have the blackening intro on one of the songs, right? You've heard it.
I don't know. I haven't.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What I mean is, in death metal, you've got your Cookie Monster, Morbid Angel, nasty stuff. You've got your Cattle Decapitation. The new albums they are death metal albums in my view, at least. Totally different thing. You have your Gorguts. You have your what do you call Ulcerate? It's so weird. It has nothing to do with Morbid Angel. You call it death metal. It's like the thing where everything is allowed.
Yeah.
So this is why, and yeah, the way also in another interview, Luke LeMay said, where he was explaining why they departed from their first album and how Obscura was made, it was like, we were trying to find our own vocabulary, and this is the way I approach things now in terms of songwriting. This is where I see us going a bit in the future, because with Nous, there were a few songs that are obvious quotes of stuff, like we have the thrash metal song Boulevard of Broken Ribs, we have the Blinded by Fear, this type of structure, which is the Transcendent Snow, which is fine. Of course, I'm not gonna make a case like I'm defending myself against some plagiarism. That's how you write music, of course. But now it's like
you wear your inspirations on your sleeve.
Of course, yeah. But now it's like, okay, time to maybe try to find stuff that other people don't do. It's not just quote stuff. That's how you make music, of course. It's a melting pot. You take this from here, make your own interpretation. Now, if you hear some of the new ideas, for example, one of the new songs, the 7-string song that you've already heard, the middle section. Have you heard something like this before? It's not in your Machine Head, right? Nope. Maybe in Gorguts, but it's like, it's stuff that I find interesting right now. It's like, I'm trying to find what haven't I heard before. It's not like, what's my interpretation of this? Before, when we were doing Nous, it's like, what's my interpretation of 80s thrash metal? All right, that's Boulevard. What's my interpretation of Arch Enemy's War Eternal? Classic single song that has everything. No pun intended. What's my interpretation of a death metal song that's like, that could maybe fit on the B-side of Obscura's Anti-Cosmic Overload? That's Dissolution, right?
Yeah.
And now it's, what can I find that's Hecktic, So it's no longer about finding an interpretation of things that are seen through our lens. It's about, finding stuff that are maybe ours. Of course, it's an ambitious goal. It's not like we're gonna achieve this 100%. It's just a different approach. It's not like anyone's gonna notice some major difference. But yeah, this is, and I owe this to Gorguts. This is where it came from, the change in the approach.
Yeah. Last thing I want to say about Gorguts, since I've been listening to them since recently, not a long time fan yet, but one of the things that surprised me in a really good way was their production. Like, to me, when you listen to heavy music, it's like you take all the instruments, you put them in a jar, and you look inside the jar. Like, everything fits into this frame, so to say. And with Gorguts, like, you have this, like the guitars, the bass, the drums, the vocals, and the orchestral parts. For me, it feels like it's outside of the jar. Like it's you're mixing two songs together or something. Like it's a blanket that covers the other instruments. It's to me that's really different, really fascinating. I love the way their production is made, because like the metal part in your face, like the jar that I spoke of, and suddenly on the far sides you hear an orchestra. It's like someone's playing in the next room, but it's still clear, you know, not muffled or anything. And that's one of the sounds that I mentioned that I hadn't heard in music before, so to say.
Which is weird, because we've both listened to Wintersun quite a bit, and as we said, they go heavily into the orchestration side of things, but it's radically different, isn't it?
For me, the orchestrations in Wintersun are also part of the jar. They're inside the jar.
Right?
Yeah,
so it's the same kind of idea, metal instruments and orchestra, but in a totally different way, right?
Yeah. So, I guess we've been going for almost 2 hours now. If you've been listening to us thus far, then congratulations.
If you've been listening to us thus far, let's do the following thing. Text us unbeholden on our Instagram page, and we're gonna send you something.
So, thanks for listening. We hope to do this again soon. It was really our first time doing anything like this.
We're gonna do this again.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It was fun, so I don't give a fuck.
Fun,
We're gonna do it.
It was really fun. Thanks for listening once again.
Thanks for listening. That's it from us. See you
Alex.
next time.
He's Alex. Bye.
Yeah, we're gonna do another one next week where we're gonna talk about the story behind Nous, how we wrote it, our thoughts on it 2 years later, because next week is gonna be its 2-year anniversary. And then we're gonna do another episode where we're gonna introduce a new member in the band. So yeah, we have a few cool things lined up. So yeah, see you next time.
Yeah, thanks.